Ladies and gentlemen, next I would like to call upon the President of the Societe Internationale Urology, Dr. Rajeev Kumar, to say a few words and address this 25th anniversary annual academic sessions. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Rajeev Kumar.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor and privilege to represent the Societe Internationale de Urology, or the SIU as most of us pronounce it more easily, at this annual meeting of SLAUS, the 25th anniversary. My congratulations. I didn't prepare any slides, and that's for a couple of reasons. The first one, of course, is that I was lazy. The second reason was that we follow a certain saying, I don't know whether you do it in Sri Lanka as well, that a drunk man doesn't lie. The equivalent of that is a man who speaks extempore tends to speak more truth than a man who speaks from slides. So I hope I speak a little more truth as I speak here today on a philosophical note rather than a true scientific note. So what would you think would be common between a Canadian, a Brazilian, or let's say a Chilean, an Indian, a Dutch, a Chinese, and a Greek Cypriot? Other than the fact that they're all urologists or that they all belong to a urology association. What's common is that these people of these different origins have all led this organization that I now represent in the last 6 years. And that's something unique about this organization that I stand here and represent today, and that's the SIU. There are societies of urologists, there are associations of urologists that have far greater members than the SIU does. We today are about 15,000 members strong, and we do represent about 139 countries. But there are associations that are larger than us. The American Urology Association probably has more members. The European Association certainly has more members. And I'm quite happy to, I would be quite okay to believe that the Chinese and the Russian associations have greater members than we do. But what sets us apart is the fact that people of these different nationalities could all aspire to lead this organization one after the other. And I see no reason why somebody from SLAUS or Sri Lanka could not be in that position within the very near future, because the number of urologists in Cyprus, from where our current Secretary General comes, I'm sure are fewer than the number of urologists in Sri Lanka. So it's not just your numbers that count. And that brings me to the small, brief point that I wanted to speak about today, and that's leadership. Although leadership is something that's been alluded to by many speakers before me, I just wanted to bring to you a personal perspective on what I think makes leaders and why I think people from this association could possibly occupy that role, because I've seen Sri Lankan urologists from the time of Dr. Gunawardene, Dr. Pereira, Dr. Srinath Chandrasekhara, friends on the dais, and of course friends in the audience today. I've been coming to Sri Lanka for 15 odd years. I've been here 3, 4, 5 times. I've been here to attend your meetings of the SLAUS, Nephrology Urology meeting. I've been invited by Srinath to do a course with Graham Watson almost 12 years ago. And what do I see in you, or you as urologists, that I think are essential or sufficient to create leaders? And I think the first one among them is integrity. Now, integrity is a word that's easily thrown about. It's very easy to say this person has integrity or doesn't. But how do you break it down into simple, measurable terms? And to me, it is relatively easy to do that. When you say a person with integrity is a person who says only that what he means and does only that what he says. So he won't be speaking X but meaning Y. And if he says, I intend to do X, you can trust him to do X. That to me is an essential sign of leadership that I've seen in many of you. The second important thing in leadership that I would see is a person who's willing to give way to others, to promote others, and to provide them shelter when they need that shelter. And that is critical to those of us who practice the art of surgery in particular. When we were trained as surgeons, and I go back to credit the earliest training that we had as surgeons, as junior residents in general surgery and to some extent in urology, that's where our basic credentials of what it takes to be a surgeon are laid. And what that does is mistakes are made by every one of us. That includes the resident who's in his first year and the senior most surgeon who's about to retire next year. Every one of us makes mistakes. What sets a good surgeon apart from a poor or an average surgeon is one who's unwilling to accept that he made a mistake, is unwilling to learn from that mistake, and insists on repeating it again and again because his ego prevents him from realizing it's a mistake. That's an essential quality that as a surgeon we are taught to be humble, to accept that we can make a mistake, to learn from our colleagues, to learn from our juniors, and learn as we go along. That's the second quality that I think is essential for being a leader. Finally, the quality that I think gets all of us going to be a leader is to be a leader that commands respect and not fear. A leader who leads by example, a leader who the people who are following are willing to say that if he or she says this, does this, it's because he or she has done the same thing when it was their turn to do it. And therefore, they're not expecting us to do something which they themselves have not done. That gets you respect along with the recognition that you require, and that gets you to where you are in your future in hierarchy. That's all I had to say. That's all I thought I would say at a gathering like this, which I think has enough speakers, probably of greater eminence than I, to give talks on things that are of greater value to everyone. Congratulations once again, and I would strongly urge you to aspire to take the position that I have today within the very short near future. Thank you.